When you're looking for a way into a character, I think it would have been easy to say, what everybody says, which is, well, gangster, or whatever.
He survived arrests, scandals, a public trial, but never said what we all felt. Until now. At 62, Johnny Depp finally broke the silence. From shattered hotel rooms to courtroom confessions, therapy recordings, and lost childhood memories. This story isn't about movies. It's about the man we never really knew. 3 arrests, no consequences. How did Johnny always escape?
Charlie Mordecai is the creation of the late author Carol Bonfiglioli, and when I read the book like 10 years ago.
In 1989, Johnny Depp was arrested in Vancouver after allegedly assaulting a hotel security guard. The guard had responded to a noise complaint. Depp was charged but received an absolute discharge, avoiding a criminal record. The hotel never pressed for compensation. Just 5 years later, on September 13, 1994, police were called to the Mark Hotel in Manhattan. Depp had destroyed furniture in his $1,200 per night suite after a late-night argument. The damage totaled $9,760. Kate Moss was present. Depp was charged with second-degree criminal mischief and released. The charge was dropped after he paid for the damage and stayed out of trouble for 6 months. In January 1999, in London's West End, Depp was again arrested after threatening paparazzi outside a restaurant. He reportedly swung a plank of wood. No formal charges were filed, but Metropolitan Police issued a caution. How did these incidents vanish from headlines just as Depp's fame exploded? None of the arrests ever reached a jury. No convictions, no jail time. And as Depp's box office power rose, public memory blurred. But later court documents showed how these moments foreshadowed deeper chaos, decades before anyone outside his circle saw it coming. So what did Depp reveal in therapy that no one was supposed to hear? Almost everyone watching this won't subscribe, but if you've made it this far, you're clearly not like everyone else. Subscribing lets me keep creating stories at this depth. Private therapy tapes, exposed secrets. He never meant shared. In 2015, during the early collapse of his marriage to Amber Heard, Johnny Depp began private therapy sessions in Los Angeles. These weren't just for stress. They were part of his effort to manage reported alcohol and opioid relapses following a 2014 surgery that left him dependent on painkillers. By 2022, during the Fairfax County defamation trial, excerpts from those sessions were introduced as evidence. Depp's voice was heard in court saying he felt like an emotional orphan. He spoke of insomnia, flashbacks, and not knowing who he was when cameras weren't on. One specific line shocked everyone. "I only exist when someone's watching." It was recorded in a 2016 therapy session reportedly shared with his court-approved psychologist. He also described repeated night terrors stemming from childhood abuse by his mother, Betty Sue Palmer, who died in 2016. Depp had her name tattooed on his arm, but later altered it to read, "Betty Sue Forever," after revealing she had been the source of most of my fear. Could early childhood trauma explain the public unraveling that followed? Court psychologists testified that Depp displayed classic trauma bonding behavior. The inability to leave toxic dynamics even when self-destruction was obvious. But what did Johnny do next? When even therapy wasn't enough, he rebuilt his childhood home to escape his past. Between 2001 and 2012, Johnny Depp lived primarily at a 60 million estate in Le Plan de la Tour, a remote village in southeastern France. The property included 12 structures, spanning 37 acres, with vineyards, guest cottages, and a central home he personally redesigned to match the floor plan of his 1970s Florida childhood house. He told Vanity Fair in a 2013 interview that he came to France because it was the first place I didn't hear my name shouted behind me. Depp spent his days painting, writing on typewriters, and drinking local wine. Cell phones were banned from his gatherings. No studio executives, no publicists, just notebooks and quiet. But why replicate the house he once called a prison? One guest later testified in court that Depp said he was rebuilding the childhood that never loved me. The replica wasn't nostalgia, it was revision. He left Hollywood behind, but as we'll soon see, the ghosts followed. What nearly happened next on a Disney ship could have ended more than a career. He almost died. Filming Pirates, Disney kept it quiet.
Remember Captain Jack Sparrow?
You are familiar with that ship, the Black Pearl?
Spring me from this cell, I swear on pain of death, I shall...
In June 2010, while filming Pirates of the Caribbean on Stranger Tides, Johnny Depp nearly died on set. The production was underway near Honolulu, Hawaii, when Depp performed a routine stunt aboard the replica ship, the Queen Anne's Revenge. His safety harness slipped. He lost footing. For a split second, he dangled over 30 feet of steel scaffolding. A crew member later said, "If his boot hadn't caught a loop in the rig, we would have lost him." The production halted. Disney omitted the near fall from its official incident reports, but whispers spread through safety forums and crew blogs within weeks. The danger was real. At the time, the film was the most expensive ever made, with a reported budget of $379 million. Depp's own salary for the movie reached $55 million. Yet colleagues on set said he was rarely present between scenes, physically there, emotionally elsewhere. Several described him as worn thin, disengaged, and far away in the eyes. In a 2011 interview with Rolling Stone, Depp admitted, "I was a trained poodle. I did the tricks. I smiled. I hated it." Why did he keep doing the role, despite the resentment, the pressure, and a brush with death? In 2012, he made a private offer to buy partial rights to the Pirates franchise for over $100 million, according to documents surfaced in a 2020 deposition. But even leaving the franchise behind didn't bring closure. What haunted him would take shape, not on film, but in paint. He painted his nightmare. And it stopped that night. For nearly 2 decades, Johnny Depp had one recurring dream: a faceless man standing under a red sky behind a crooked house. It began, he claimed, in 1996 during the filming of The Brave, a deeply personal film he directed and starred in. In 2013, after years of insomnia and therapy, Depp painted the dream. The canvas, over 6 feet tall, was kept in his Hollywood Hills studio where few visitors were ever allowed. In 2018, a Rolling Stone journalist spotted it during an interview and described it as disturbing, surreal, and strangely intimate. Depp later told a therapist in a 2016 recorded session played in the 2022 defamation trial that the faceless man reminded him of his cousin Jimmy, who disappeared in 1971 under mysterious circumstances in Kentucky. The family never received closure. Police ruled it a runaway. Depp was just 8 years old at the time. Why did he believe finishing the painting would stop the visions? According to Depp's psychologist, the act of completing the painting may have closed a trauma loop. After it was finished, Depp claimed the nightmare never returned. He refused to sell or exhibit the painting. It remains locked in his private archive, reportedly insured for $2.5 million. But when the canvas went quiet, real life got louder, in a courtroom watched by the world. In court, he confessed something that changed everything forever. On April 25, 2022, during Day 16 of the defamation trial at Fairfax County Circuit Court, Virginia, Johnny Depp was under oath. In front of the jury, he spoke slowly and deliberately. Then came a line that stunned the courtroom. "I stayed because I believed I deserved the pain." This statement came during direct questioning about his 5-year relationship with Amber Heard. The moment was streamed live to millions worldwide, generating a viral wave of online reactions. Many said it was the first time they saw Depp not as a celebrity, but as a man unraveling publicly. He described enduring emotional volatility, recounting over 14 separate instances where he claimed to have been physically or verbally assaulted, some confirmed in testimony. Clinical psychologist Dr. Shannon Curry, hired by Depp's team, testified that he displayed traits consistent with trauma bonding, a psychological response where a victim becomes emotionally attached to their abuser. But why would a global icon worth over $650 million at his peak believe he deserved to be hurt? After his testimony, Depp was seen in the courthouse hallway alone, quietly wiping his eyes. His legal team later confirmed he had written the phrase, "Truth saved me," in red lipstick on the mirror of his trial prep room. But what he said next, about the culture that targeted him, was even more shocking. Hollywood tried to hide this. Depp just confirmed everything. In June 2025, Johnny Depp gave a rare, unfiltered interview to the Sunday Times while in London for an independent music showcase. What stood out wasn't just what he said, it was how plainly he said it. He described the 6-year fallout from the Heard allegations as a public crucifixion. Then he added, "I was the crash test dummy for the new Me Too movement." That phrase made headlines worldwide. Depp clarified he was not dismissing the movement, but claimed his downfall began before the cultural shift took form and without the benefit of due process. He accused 3 unnamed former friends, people who had attended his children's birthdays and stood beside him at premieres, of siding against him publicly in order to protect their own brands. "They sold me for silence," he said, "and I watched it happen." Was this Johnny lashing out, or finally reclaiming his voice after years of forced silence? The interview lasted over 4 hours and was recorded in a private art gallery in Soho, London. Depp reportedly served his own rum brand during the session and spoke without PR oversight. The journalist confirmed no topics were off limits. For the first time, Depp admitted he may never fully repair his career, but insisted he had reclaimed something more important: clarity. But one last statement, shared quietly in a candlelit room, may be the most personal yet. He finally admits it. Johnny Depp was never really himself. On the evening of July 9th, 2025, Johnny Depp made an unannounced appearance at the Penumbra Literary Salon in London's Fitzrovia district. It wasn't a red carpet event. No press were invited. Fewer than 40 people were in the room. He wasn't there to perform. He came to speak. During a Q&A, a quiet voice from the crowd asked, "Who is Johnny Depp now?" Depp paused for a long moment, looked down at the worn leather notebook in his lap, and answered, "I was never really me. I just became what people needed me to be." Attendees described the silence that followed as heavy, reverent, and unlike anything in a theater. Several were seen crying. One guest, a poet from Glasgow, said it felt like watching a man walk out of his own shadow. The event was recorded but has not yet been released publicly. However, insiders confirmed that a documentary titled "The Mirror and the Man" is in post-production, set to premiere at the Venice Film Festival in September 2026. Was this his farewell to fame, or the beginning of a final act written only for himself? As he left, Depp signed just one name on the guest book, Jack, and then, without a word, he disappeared into the London fog. If you think you've heard it all, think again. Tap the next video on screen to uncover the untold truths Hollywood still doesn't want you to know. It starts right here.